Yes.
This is the presence of God.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you're cheating on God in his own house or in his own bed.
Yeah.
Or like you're cheating on your wife inside of your marriage bed. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
And it feels like instead of God being the center, the message and Jesus is just an advertisement for the car, or it's just an advertisement for your own gain or for your own money. And at that point, since there's a spirit behind money and greed, like you are using God's name in vain to push another god. And like that is not okay.
It's like, what God do you have in your house?
Yeah.
What God do you have in your church?
And that reminds me of the Mark Driscoll controversy that's happened. I think it was like a month ago.
Here's the clip.
I'll try to show the clip if there is.
If you want to, yeah, throw it up there.
But essentially, they had a men's conference, a stronger men's conference, and before Mark Driscoll got on stage to give a message, they had a whole bunch of performances. They had monster trucks. They had fire. They had all these cool guy things.
But I like monster trucks.
And it's not a bad thing. But towards the end, there was even this male dancer who was swinging around a pole.
You telling me you wouldn't do that? No, I'm just joking.
Like, how does it? I'm not saying that. You can't worship the Lord, but I don't think that's worshiping the Lord by dancing on a pole shirtless. If that was a female, it would be outrageous. It would be scandalous. But just because it's some guy at a men's conference makes it okay. It does not. And what Mark Driscoll did before he got his message, he was like, the spirit of Jezebel has invaded this church, and I rebuke it and all that stuff. And the other pastor kicked him off the stage. And it's like, that was wrong. You should have done that in private. You shouldn't have said that on stage and stuff. But most Christians' reactions were on the side of Mark Driscoll, even though he has his own controversy in his own life.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree that that's not okay. And if that is the face of Christianity, pushing to new believers and to non-believers, then I would be pretty disgusted, or I wouldn't want to be a Christian, because what is the difference between the world and Christianity if Christianity is just another advertisement for their own gain and for their own money and pleasures?
That brings up a couple thoughts. Shoot, and I'm losing them. But I guess the first thought is, how does somebody navigate living with their Christian convictions and calling those around them to those same convictions? Is there a spot where you're like, oh, maybe this is just for me, or I gotta tell this person, you are weirdly obsessed with men dancing on poles. How do you navigate that, even as a pastor, or even just as somebody in the congregation speaking to your friends? But because I can see it, and there's I see it as there's a spectrum, super godly and super ungodly, and that one falls closer over here. But what if there's all these other things that are where does this stand? If we say, oh, we're just making a joke, you're being too sensitive, you're being you ever hear that? It's I've heard that a ton, especially growing up and in high school, when some people started taking their faith seriously and other people started taking their faith less seriously and eventually stopped believing, they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're we go to church and stuff, but you're super godly. Or they would say it's about other people. They'd be like, that person, I want to be like this person, but they're too godly, they're too Christian-y. But it's is there a too Christian-y, or are you diluting your truth, kind of thing?
Well, I think just as a Christian, you want to balance, because when we say things like too Christian-y, it's usually you're too legalistic, and your church doesn't allow you to raise your hands during worship, or you have to follow all these rules, and that comes with a bunch of shame from the community, and you can never come back and stuff. Or the other aspect where your church is too weird. It's too focused on like emotions and emotional highs, and and kind of like exploiting the gifts of the Spirit in a way where it's like, I don't know, it kind of dilutes it in a way, or kind of turns it into a circus or a circus act. Not saying that the Holy Spirit is a circus, but sometimes they put it on display like a performance sometimes.
Totally. And even like, yeah, because then it's like when you run the church and you allow things, and people will say jokes in a sermon, or like do like a promo little video beforehand, like most of the time it's fine, but sometimes for some people it pushes. There's like complaints. They're like, I can't believe you would show this, or I can't believe you would say this on the stage in front of people. And it's like, sometimes like, oh, is this person being legalistic? And usually I'm like, oh, these people are being way too legalistic. But sometimes I like question in the back of my head, I'm like, deep down, am I being a blind Christian right now?
Am I being lukewarm?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I asked myself the question, I'm like, would Jesus do this? What would Jesus do? Like,
yeah.
And there's things like that. Like, even I know for my school, when I went to a Christian school, they're like, you're not allowed to watch any scary movies. You're not allowed to watch any horror movies because it's not God honoring, which makes sense. And I heard some people, and they're like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I'll watch whatever movies I want to watch. I'm not doing it. I'm not acting in anything. But it's too, like, if your eyes are the windows to your soul, and you, like, whatever you like take in and all this stuff is like, it's interesting to me because I'm like, is it a sin? And one of the high schoolers asked me this the other day. They said, is it a sin to watch scary movies? And the part where I kind of landed on it was, I read in I think it's 1 Corinthians 10 or something. It's like, all things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I don't think you're sinning against God by watching a scary movie, but what good does it do for you and your walk with God? What good does it do? But then there's also the thing where it's like, if you're giving all your attention to that for like 2 hours, but you can't sit down and read the Bible for 15 minutes, like, what are you doing? Like I don't think God's going to send you to hell for watching a scary movie. But at the same time, like, if all you do is things that draw you away from God, how good and how close are you going to be to Him? How well will you ever know Him?
That's interesting.
It is an interesting thing too, and I feel the same about like even we were listening to the Drake music because, you know, we gotta stay in with the culture. Had to see what this Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef is, and I'm like, if I was just listening to this and some random person who wasn't a Christian came and sat in the car, and they're like, are you guys Christian? Do you like this music? I would be like, no, I just want to hear about the culture and see what all this like fuss is about. But at the same time, I'm like, would Jesus be like, yeah, I'm rocking with this? Or, you know, I don't think he would. I think he'd be like, I'm going to go pray instead. Just like things that we would say are like, oh, too Christian-y in that sense. Like, not even legalistic, none of that, but it's just like, sort of like, where are your desires kind of thing.
My stance, well, I've thought about scary movies before, but personally I don't like scary movies because I don't like being scared.